The scramble for the final playoff spots in the West intensifies to outrageous proportions. Archdeep Bains becomes the first player to reach the century mark, and the Spokane Chiefs turn up the heat after it seemed that all hope was lost. I'm FWFarenholtz, and you're dialed in to WHL Weekly.
Line left wing side, Gunther, he'll walk in, wrist shot, he scores! Now he's got the hat trick, Dylan Gunther, hometown kid flying down that left wing, who can stop that?
Bedard cuts to his right, shoots and scores! Connor Bedard breaks the deadlock 22 seconds into the second period.
Okay, if my calculations are correct, this episode should be coming out on time. Like, there's no way I'm not letting this happen again. Because once again, the jinxing has come back to bite everyone in the ass. Well, everyone, me in the ass, but everyone in the WHL. Winnipeg's 12-game win streak. Spokane's horrible losing skid? They've been one of, if not the hottest team in the league right now. Like, I'd say the only thing that actually reigned true was the most basic prediction I made last video, and that was Brandon clinching the 6th playoff seed in the East. After a convincing 4-2 win over the Raiders, the Wheat Kings were able to snag their playoff berth. They've been buzzing lately with all the returns, including Danielson, as previously mentioned last week, the speedy stick handler in Brett Hyland, and the sizable blue liner in Mason Ward. I believe one of the more convincing factors for Brandon, though, has to be the awaited return of Ridley Gregg.
Back door, here's Gregg, a shot, he scores! Power play goal!
And I still don't think people understand the value Gregg brings to whatever lineup he's a part of. He's not just a hard in the paint, nose to the net type of player. He delivers the whole package, and especially in junior. Despite Gregg's absence for a portion of the season due to injury or suspension, Gregg has still amassed 63 points in 39 contests, and currently sits at 2nd in the league for points per game. And his .66 goals per game ranks him among the league's best in terms of pure goal scoring as well. Everything's falling into place for the Wheat Kings, and the same can be said about the Chiefs. Like, to think I said that these guys didn't even have a chance anymore at the end of last week is actually insulting. Like, I should be punished. Like, it's easily been the worst take of the year, because Spokane is currently riding a 3-game win streak that has propelled them into the final playoff spot in the Western Conference. During this stretch, the Chiefs dismantled the Giants twice and actually surmounted the Blazers in a 6-5 victory thanks to their tremendous 3-goal first period. Their offense has easily been the source of the team's success, and a lot of it is coming from overager Nick McCary, who's still on his revenge tour after being swapped for Luke Toporowski at the trade deadline. He's got 6 points during this winning streak, including 4 goals. And I won't forget to mention the success of Chase Berthelot either. The kid has some insane wheels and was a terrific acquisition from Winnipeg. His 5 points and high-octane style of play has bolstered the Chiefs' top 6. And you don't want to forget about Berkeley Catton either, the 2021 Bantam Draft first overall pick. He notched his first career point versus the Giants on Saturday, and even though I felt he should have seen a few more opportunities, this is a team that's pushing for that final spot, and that doesn't leave a whole lot of time for experimentation in the lineup. All in all though, it was an amazing week from Spokane, and although I will admit my take last week was horribly incorrect, the Chiefs have had some quality fortune happen to them as well for this all to occur. Like the Giants for one, they have been awful over the last few weeks. More on them later, but also the Cougars, they've been struggling since the turn of the calendar year, and with the recent injury to Tyler Brennan, things do not look like they're going to be getting too much brighter up north. And the Victoria Royals, like, they've probably been the best of these 3, but they're not winning the games they're supposed to be. And if it weren't for all of this happening, like, I don't think Spokane would be in the position they're currently in. The stars have literally aligned, and don't forget, their final 2 games in 2 weeks are both in Victoria. That can easily be a little play-in tournament if stats stay somewhat familiar down the line. Let's focus on those Giants though, because I can stem their current struggles to a couple of factors, but in the grand scheme, it's just the team that just isn't ready for playoff action. Lots of key injuries, inexperienced goaltending, and a lack of dynamic skill as you go deeper into the lineup. Not one thing has hurt them more though than the absence of Jesper Vikman. Sure, like, his stats on the front page don't look too admirable, but when you compare these numbers to Will Gursky and Connor Martins, it starts to make sense on how valuable the Swedish tendy is to Vancouver. And trust me when I say this, I've been to the Giants' last few home games, and they have been entertaining games, but I'll tell you firsthand, these guys have no concept of finishing anywhere. Vancouver's power play during this 6-game skid How about 11%? Their home power play, a measly 7%. Not one person is going to be winning a white spot milkshake when they come to the Langley Event Center. And it's purely finishing. They're averaging 31.7 shots per game, which is by no means bad, but averaging just over 2 goals a game while averaging 4.5 power play opportunities a game, you gotta step it up. Especially with Spokane, Victoria, and PG right at your doorstep. Those aren't the only teams making a final push for the postseason though. Off in the Eastern Conference, the best example has to be coming from Calgary. The Hitmen have polished off their competition for a perfect 3-0 week with a ton of praise to their overagers. Captain Cale Zimmerman and bulky winger Blake Stevenson have been providing the blunt end of the offense as well as a fair portion of the team's pride. Want to define crucial? How about taking 2 straight wins versus the team that's right above you in the standings? And after all of that, you still have 2 games in hand on them as well. All I know is that somehow, somewhere,
Pepper needs new
there were a few other games that really shook the league as a whole, but before we get into that, let's have a look at the prospects that are going to be shaking the league in the next couple of seasons. It's time for the Prospect Watch.
And it's Matthew Savoy going corner for Winnipeg to make it 2-0 ice.
He just has a next level of confidence right now. Every time he touches the puck, he's looking to do something spectacular.
Let's kick it off in Lethbridge with the Langley native Logan Warmold. And, that's a lot of L's, but trust me, Logan is taking none of them. The 2005 board center has been really underappreciated this season as there are just so many good 05s in the league. But he's currently riding a 5-game point streak and sits at 33 points on the year. He's a compact forward that has a great feel for the game and can easily be a dark horse heading into the 2023 NHL draft. Another fellow under the radar guy for 2023 is Niko Mijadovic. And when I first watched him, I generally believed I was watching an 02 or even an 01 for that matter. His game is so mature, and in my opinion, he's the perfect complementary winger to go alongside Seattle's top line. He's added 3 assists in his last 4 games, but adds so much value away from the puck as well. Mijadovic grew up in PG too, so it's only fair I cover a Cougar that's finally showcasing some consistency, and that's Keaton Dowhaniuk. He hasn't had the brightest offensive season that you would expect from a former 3rd overall pick, but his 5 apples across PG's last 4 contests has reminded us that he's capable of being a smooth skating 2-way defenseman with an offensive touch. And then almost the same thing can be said about Hitman blue liner Graydon Seatman, a terrific transitional defenseman that you don't want to provide any space for, because he'll exploit it and get a slick shot off in no time flat. Now let's end it off with a crazy forecast. Jonas Wu of the Ice. He's been with the club since the middle of March and hasn't looked back since. He's logged 12 games on Winnipeg's blue line and has already scored his first career goal. The real kicker is that he's a late 06, meaning he's not eligible until 2025. That's just insane stuff. Speaking of insane, Arshdeep Bains. Welcome to the Century Club, my friend. The recently signed Canucks prospect recently just cracked the 100-point barrier, making him the first to do so this season. And while we were on the topic of signings, he's been buzzing ever since he got to Seattle, and it's finally paid off. Lukas Vashkovsky has signed his ELC with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was a 4th-round pick in 2020 and has demonstrated that his offensive prowess is worthy of a shot at the next level. Hopefully he doesn't take his foot off the gas pedal here, as he's got 16 points in his last 10 games. Now, to those games I said I was going to mention earlier, strap yourselves in, because they were fierce. Portland. They had themselves one hell of a weekend, taking 2 nail-biters versus Seattle and Everett. One was in a nail-biter where they almost blew a 4-0 lead until Jaden DeRoe completed his hat-trick with 7 minutes remaining, scoring a shorty, a power play, and an even-strength goal for the trick. And the second game, it was a psychotic comeback where the game was tied with less than 4 minutes remaining after being down 4-2. And of course, it would be Red Wings prospect Cross Hannes to seal the game off in overtime to defeat the probable US Division champs. And there was some mayhem going on in Alberta as well. I mean, what is new? The Rebels completely fed it to the Oil Kings, beating them twice and assisting in giving the Oil Kings their first set of consecutive losses since 2019. The Oil Kings haven't been the hottest of late, but with Jake Neighbors and Caden Gooley returning to the lineup in the next few days, I wouldn't stress that much because these guys are still going to make a good push once the playoffs come around. Now, for our top players of the week. At number 1, he got a mention last week for his success under the cage, Logan Stankoven. He turned it up another notch. I don't even know how he did this. He secured another 9 points over the Blazers' last 3 games. His 1.75 points per game leads the WHL, while other Stars prospects Maverick Bourque and Wyatt Johnston lead their respective leagues as well. Jesus Christ, Dallas. Like, your scouting's just too good. Stankoven's former teammate Nick McCary will take that second position for his scoring prowess on the Red Hot Chiefs, and Cross Hannes will steal the final spot for his 4-point weekend and having the game-winning goal versus their dreaded rivals. As for the team, Hannes' Winterhawks and Archdeep Bains' Rebels will take the first 2 spots for their dynamic victories, while Spokane and Calgary crack the list for their perfect records over the week. 2 more weeks to go, my friends, and we may not even find out who sneaks into the playoffs until the very last day if the cards are played correctly. I really want to actually go out to Victoria and catch those last games, but I probably won't be able to make the trip. So to my fans on the island, cheer loud for me. Anyways, hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you one more time next week. Take care. See ya.